Going to begin with the posting of the colors in our national anthem. So if you would please rise. Students, we're about to begin.
On September 11, 2001 at 8:45 a.m. on a clear Tuesday morning, an American Airlines Boeing 767 loaded with 20,000 gallons of jet fuel crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center in New York City. The impact left a gaping, burning hole near the 80th floor of the 110-story skyscraper, instantly killing hundreds of people and trapping hundreds more in higher floors. As the evacuation of the tower and its twin got underway, television cameras broadcasted live images of what initially appeared to be a freak accident. Then, 18 minutes after the first plane hit, a second Boeing 767 United Airlines Flight 175 appeared out of the sky, turned sharply toward the World Trade Center, and sliced into the South Tower near the 60th floor. The collision caused a massive explosion that showered burning debris over surrounding buildings and onto the streets below. It immediately became clear that America was under attack. Osama bin Laden. The hijackers were Islamic terrorists from Saudi Arabia and several other Arab nations, reportedly financed by the Al-Qaeda terrorist organization of Saudi fugitive Osama bin Laden. They were allegedly acting in retaliation for America's support of Israel, its involvement in the Persian Gulf War, and its continued military presence in the Middle East. Some of the terrorists had lived in the United States for more than a year and had taken flying lessons at American commercial flight schools. Others had slipped into the country in the months before September 11 and acted as the muscle in the operation. The 19 terrorists easily smuggled box cutters and knives through security at 3 East Coast airports and boarded 4 early morning flights bound for California, chosen because the planes were loaded with fuel for the long transcontinental journey. Soon after takeoff, the terrorists commandeered the 4 planes and took the controls, transforming ordinary passenger jets into guided missiles. Pentagon Attack. As millions watched the events unfolding in New York, American Airlines Flight 77 circled over downtown Washington, D.C. before crashing into the west side of the Pentagon military headquarters at 9:45 a.m. Jet fuel from the Boeing 757 caused a devastating inferno that led to the structural collapse of a portion of the giant concrete building, which is the headquarters of the U.S. Department of Defense. All told, 125 military personnel and civilians were killed in the Pentagon, along with all 64 people aboard the airliner. Less than 15 minutes after the terrorists struck the nerve center of the U.S. military, the horror in New York took a catastrophic turn when the South Tower of the World Trade Center collapsed in a massive cloud of dust and smoke. The structural steel of the skyscraper, built to withstand winds in excess of 200 miles per hour and a large conventional fire, could not withstand the tremendous heat generated by the burning jet fuel. At 10:30 a.m., the north building of the Twin Towers collapsed. Only 6 people in the World Trade Center towers at the time of their collapse survived. Almost 10,000 others were treated for injuries, many severe. Flight 93. Meanwhile, a fourth California-bound plane, United Flight 93, was hijacked about 40 minutes after leaving Newark Liberty International Airport in New Jersey. Because the plane had been delayed in taking off, passengers on board learned of events in New York and Washington via cell phone and airphone calls to the ground. Knowing that the aircraft was not returning to an airport as the hijackers claimed, a group of passengers and flight attendants planned an insurrection. One of the passengers, Thomas Burnett Jr., told his wife over the phone that I know we're all going to die. There's 3 of us who are going to do something about it. I love you, honey. Another passenger, Todd Beamer, was heard saying, "Are you guys ready? Let's roll," over an open line. Sandy Bradshaw, a flight attendant, called her husband and explained that she had slipped into a galley and was filling pitchers with boiling water. Her last words to him were, "Everyone's running to first class. I've got to go. Bye." The passengers fought the 4 hijackers and are suspected to attack the cockpit with a fire extinguisher. The plane then flipped over and sped toward the ground at upwards of 500 miles per hour, crashing in a rural field near Shanksville in western Pennsylvania at 10:10 a.m. All 44 people aboard were killed. Its intended target is not known, but theories include the White House, the U.S. Capitol, the Camp David presidential retreat in Maryland, or one of several nuclear power plants along the eastern seaboard.
A total of 2,996 people were killed in the 9/11 attacks, including the 19 terrorist hijackers aboard the 4 airplanes. Citizens of 78 countries died in New York, Washington, D.C., and Pennsylvania. At the World Trade Center, 2,763 died after the 2 planes slammed into the Twin Towers. That figure included 343 firefighters and paramedics, 23 New York City police officers, and 37 Port Authority police officers, who were struggling to complete an evacuation of the buildings and save the office workers trapped on the higher floors. At the Pentagon, 189 people were killed, including the 64 on American Airlines Flight 77, the airliner that struck the building. On Flight 93, 44 people died when the airplane crash-landed in Pennsylvania. At 7 p.m., President George W. Bush, who was in Florida at the time of the attacks and had spent the days being shuttled around the country because of security concerns, returned to the White House. At 9 p.m., he delivered a televised address from the Oval Office declaring, "Terrorist attacks can shake the foundation of our biggest buildings, but they cannot touch the foundation of America. These acts shattered steel, but they cannot dent the steel of American resolve." In reference to the eventual U.S. military response, he declared, "We will make no distinction between the terrorists who committed these acts and those who harbor them." Operation Enduring Freedom, the American-led international effort to oust the Taliban regime in Afghanistan and destroy Osama bin Laden's terrorist network based there, began on October 7. Within 2 months, U.S. forces had effectively removed the Taliban from operational power, but the war continued. As U.S. and coalition forces attempted to defeat a Taliban insurgency campaign based in the neighboring Pakistan, Osama bin Laden, the mastermind behind the September 11th attacks, remained at large until May 2, 2011, when he was finally tracked down and killed by U.S. forces at a hideout in Abbottabad, Pakistan. On June 11th, then President Barack Obama announced the beginning of a large-scale troop withdrawal from Afghanistan. What follows is a 4-minute film. There is not a narrator. Instead, you are listening to the voices of American people under the stress of a terrorist attack. Please forgive their language. They were in the midst of a crisis.
American 11, expect a call.
The cockpit is not answering their phone. Our number 1's been staffed and our 5 has been staffed.
Airport call from Washington. I am in a situation with American 11, a possible hijack.
What's going on there? Aircraft is erratic again. Stop, ready to go. Ready, copy. Eddie, are you there? Eddie? Eddie? That's fine, this is what? 737?
What?
The World Trade Center. Talking to? Oh, God. Oh, my God.
United 175, New York. We have some problems over here right now. We might have a hijack over here, 2 of them. Jules, this is on an airplane that's been hijacked. If things don't go well, I'm looking good. I just want you to know I absolutely love you. I want you to do good. So absolutely fine. Same to my parents and everybody. And I totally love you. And I'll see you later. Bye, Dave.
What are those people going to do? All the elevators are blocked out.
Oh my God. So both towers are now.
Okay, come on, I got an aircraft southeast of the White House.
Crystal City, just north of Crystal City.
This is the number to your town.
Yeah, stop all markers.
I got this guy hit. Don't put me in that. God damn, I can't protect point in NCA.
United 93, that traffic 3 is 1 o'clock, 12 miles eastbound 370.
Negative contact, we're looking United 93.
United 93, Cleveland, if you hear the sound right then.
I got some pictures, Doc. Remaining to be behind the ball, boys.
Tuesday, 9:47 a.m.
Hi, baby. Baby, you have to listen to me carefully. I'm on a plane that's been hijacked. I'm on the plane. I'm calling from the plane. I want to tell you I love you. Please tell my children that I love them very much. And I'm so sorry, babe. I hope to be able to see your face again, baby. I love you. Bye.
We're 56865. We have, I believe it is a Boeing 757. Can you see him up there, sir?
That's confirmed. It looks like he's rocking his wings.
Right.
He's rocking back and forth.
We're 56865. I advise you stay away from that aircraft. Go north as fast as you can.
United 93, you got information on that yet?
Yeah, he's down.
He's down?
Yes.
When did he land?
He did not land.
Oh, he's down?
Yeah,
Down?
somewhere up northeast of Camp David.
Honestly, I just want to let you know I love you. And I'm perfectly so busy. Here you are. I just want to smoke and you just wanted you to know that I love you so much.
At number 2 World Trade Center, right? Only the students will be talking. We're not ready to die. We're prepared.
Say your prayers. We're going to think positive because you got to help each other get off the floor. Now.
In the aftermath of the attack on Pearl Harbor, as many Japanese celebrated, Admiral Yamamoto, who was the mastermind of the attack, put it in more somber tones. He said, "I fear all we have done is awaken a sleeping giant and fill him with a horrible resolve." Pearl Harbor enraged the American public. And on September 11th, 2001, that's how most Americans felt about the attacks here at home. But there was an added element: fear. While Pearl Harbor was a legitimate military target with some civilian casualties, the attacks on September 11th indiscriminately targeted women, children, the elderly, black, white, brown, Christians, Jews, Muslims. So 30 years ago, when our military squared off against the fourth largest army in the world in Kuwait, I don't remember feeling anything except exhilaration. But when I saw the second aircraft hit the World Trade Center, I knew that our homeland was under attack and that my family was now at risk. And suddenly, I felt fear. We were stationed at Camp Pendleton at the time with Marine Aircraft Group 39, and we lived about 10 miles from the San Onofre nuclear power facility. The thought struck me, what if someone flew an airliner into that? Southern California has vast croplands. What if somebody put nerve agent in a crop duster and flew it over a highly populated area? The possibilities of how evil men could hurt us were limitless. When my schedule permitted, I traded in my wife's 10-year-old vehicle for a new expedition. I put 4 cases of MREs in the back, along with several cases of water. I told my wife, should there be another attack, don't wait for me. She should get in the aircraft or get in her car, drive east to Texas as fast as she could and get our boys out of there. Then we began to respond, to take the fight to the enemy. As soon as the second plane hit, I knew who was responsible: Osama bin Laden. I also knew the organization that he represented, Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda translates literally into the base. Where was their base of operations? The most inhospitable country on the face of the planet. It's called Afghanistan. Afghanistan has been described as a country the size of Texas with the topography of Colorado. You can see how mountainous it is. These are the Hindu Kush Mountains. The average peak is 8,000 meters tall. Very difficult to get to.
I want you all to know that America today is on bended knee in prayer for the people whose lives were lost here, for the workers who work here, for the families who mourn. This nation stands with the good people of New York City and New Jersey and Connecticut as we mourn the loss of thousands of our citizens. I can hear you. I can hear you. The rest of the world hears you. And the people who knock these buildings down will hear all of us soon. The nation sends its love, its compassion to everybody who is here. Thank you for your hard work. Thank you for making the nation proud. And may God bless America.
The president was obviously angry, as we all were. But frankly, I thought all we were going to do was drop a few bombs and shake our fists because of the logistics of the fight ahead of us. All you have to do is look at this map. This is Afghanistan right here. How do you get in there? It's not practical to come through about 1,800 miles of Russia and what we collectively refer to as the stands. We're certainly not going to be able to get in through Iran. It is not practical to come in through 2,000 miles of China. The only venue for the approach would be through Pakistan, about 400 miles. There was a problem with that. Pakistan is a nuclear power. There was a general named Pervez Musharraf who came to power through military coup in 1999. Pakistan is also the sworn enemy of India. India is the second most populous nation on the face of the planet. And in the event, God forbid, we ever come into conflict with China, we need India on our side. India and Pakistan don't like each other. And I was afraid at the time that if we made a deal with Pakistan to get into Afghanistan, that we would alienate the Indians who we need as an ally. But my job is kinetics, not diplomacy. The Indians could read a map. They knew that we had no other option on how to get in there, and they didn't hold a grudge with us for forming an alliance with Musharraf's government.
For tonight's ceremonial first pitch, and please welcome the President of the United States. Mr. President.
Just as we have lived in fear for the last 18 months because of the coronavirus, Americans in 2001 feared another attack. There were many who said that it was foolhardy to gather for large sporting events. And yet, on October 30th, here was the President of the United States throwing out the first pitch of the World Series. I have to tell you, I felt real pride when I saw that. We were already in Afghanistan when this happened, and our forces were closing on Kabul. A real testament to what your country can do when it sets its mind to it. The Bush doctrine was simple: kill or capture Osama bin Laden, disrupt al-Qaeda operations to prevent Afghanistan from being used as a springboard against future attacks against the United States, and take down the Taliban government.
Press corps many times that this is a struggle that's going to take a while. That it's not one of these Kodak moments. There's no moment to this. This is a long struggle and a different kind of war. But we're patient, and our close friends are patient, which is bad news for the Taliban and the people they harbor.
President Bush told us that it would be a long, hard struggle, perhaps endless struggle. It has now been 20 years. Not one student in this auditorium was alive when the attacks occurred, nor do you realize how profoundly our country has changed. As a people, we have always had our differences, but in the end, recognize that we are America, the greatest country in the history of civilization. The man you see up there, his name is George Marshall. He was the first man to ever wear 5 stars. He was the architect of our victory during World War II. As a student of history, he didn't believe that any democracy could withstand more than about 5 years of sustained warfare without tearing itself apart. Or as he said, in reference to World War II, we had to go brutally fast in Europe. We could not indulge in a 7 years war. A king can perhaps do that, but you cannot have such a protracted struggle in a democracy in the face of mounting casualties. 3 weeks ago, we pulled the remaining troops out of Afghanistan. Actually, it was 2 weeks ago. Some people are asking, was it worth it? The only way that I can answer that is to say that there has not been another attack on U.S. soil since the invasion. So at this time, I would ask that you all rise for a moment of silence and for the playing of taps, which symbolizes bringing our dead home. I'd like to thank the History Department, the choir, the band, the color guard, and for you students for being such a wonderful audience. Please leave quietly for your next class.